Welcome for anyone jumping in. We're going to give it a couple minutes till after 1 o'clock, so about 1:03, 1:05 before we get things rolling if you're jumping in now. So, um, yeah, feel free to go re-up on the coffee or go to the bathroom and then be back in the next 10 minutes. I'm going to repeat myself a couple times here, but for anyone who just jumped in, we're going to give this till about 1:05 before we get started. So feel free to jump in and out and be back here by then. But just wanted to catch anyone who's new getting in here. Welcome to anyone who's joining us. We're going to give it about 3 more minutes before we get rolling. Just clicked over 1 o'clock. We'll kind of allow for some stragglers to jump off some other meetings, and then we'll jump into it. The silence is deafening here. Next time we're going to add some elevator music to this. I apologize for everyone for the silence, but get caught up on your meditation or something, I guess. We're going to give it 2 more minutes before we get rolling. All right, guys, 1 more minute and we'll get rolling into things. All right, everyone, we're going to get rolling. Welcome to the latest edition of the Texas Wireless Association webinar series. Today we have Casey and Maggie from the Outlaw Insurance Group running through the insurance risk mitigation and claims handling for Telecom. They're going to run through. It'll probably be about a 30-minute session that we've got here. Feel free to send any questions through using the tools over on the right side of your screen. And as always, this is going to be a recorded session that we're going to be putting up on the website afterwards. So if you miss it or would like to send it to someone else or would like to revisit some portions of the webinar, you're more than welcome to jump on the website or reach out to any of us here. My name is Ben Bowman. I'm the chair of the membership committee for Texas Wireless Association. We're excited to have you here. We're excited to have everyone join us for the spring event that we've got coming up in a couple weeks in Dallas. We've got a fully booked golf tournament at this point, but as always, we've got networking tickets available for anyone who'd like to join. Welcome, and I guess without any further ado, I'm going to jump on at the end, just kind of do a little couple wrap ups and answer any questions that have been sent through. Otherwise, I'll kick it over to Casey and Maggie.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. So we're here. I'm Casey, and this is Maggie from Outlaw Insurance Group. And we were approached by Texas State Wireless Association to have an informational webinar about your insurance policies and managing risks. We're going to do our very best to not have this super boring because we do know that insurance can be a little bit boring, but we hope that there are some pieces of information within this presentation that you guys can take back to your agent with questions or help you understand your policies better. We do want to note before we begin that the topics covered, it doesn't encompass every situation, every policy endorsement, exclusion, etc. This is really just an informational overview. So for any policy specific questions that you may have, be sure you contact your insurance agent, or you can always ask us as well.
It's just more of like a get together, give you the ins and outs of, basic general things that we really wish our customers knew beforehand to kind of ease the process a little bit for you. So understanding your insurance policies. One of the main things that I think a lot of clients forget is that the insurance agreement itself is a contract between you and the insurance carrier. So when you sign up on everything, when you bind it, you're now in a contract with the insurance carrier to say, hey, I'll do these things. If I do all these things to your qualifications, you've got coverage there. With that being said, knowing your coverages is, I mean, you gotta know simply because there's so many things that could happen on site that you're gonna end up questioning yourself, am I covered or not? That's a great question that a lot more people should ask than they currently do. Reviewing your insurance regularly. If you have an insurance agent that pops by, every few times and they're not talking about your net revenue, they're not talking about your assets, they're not talking about the important things, you got to review that at least once a year, ideally, well, more than that, but at least as a rule of thumb, once a year.
And especially if your company is in growth mode, we really try to talk to those clients about once a quarter. So just make sure that you're staying in contact with your agent because as you are in growth mode, the things you're doing are changing, your operations are changing, your revenue, your payroll, etc.
It's always really fun and great when somebody wants to put their revenue, we're going to underbid our revenue. I love when people have a great year. You got to understand, if you low bid yourself up front, you're going to have a giant loss at the back end. Conversations aren't had with your agent. That can hurt financially.
And also, before we dig in, I know these slides have quite a bit of information on them. We're not going to go through every single bullet point. We really wanted you to have these to reference back to and to be able to take screenshots and discuss these things with your agent.
All right. Endorsements are going to be a huge deal. You guys know you've got to meet compliance just like everybody else. It's extremely important, your common endorsements, your limitations, knowing what's on your policy, everything's going to look like legal jargon to anybody normally other than your insurance agent and your lawyer. So it's a group effort, but if you sit down, you'll need to look at your endorsements, make sure, your additional insureds are in there, your waiver of segregations, the whole 9 yards. A lot of agents essentially will give you an endorsement, but it's not the right code specific endorsement. I know you guys have heard of like CG 2010s for Crown Castle and everybody. They've got to be on there. More than that, whatever your limitations are, you really need to make sure that your subcontractors have those same coverages. But sometimes they'll sneak in onto your policies some of these contractor limitations, class limitations. There's a whole slew of things that can actually muddy up the gears of your insurance policies. So a lot of times you're going to need to take a look and make sure that your current policies, your GL policies, especially umbrella policies, what the wording is going to be on workers, 1099s, temporary workers, anything like that. It may look harmless, but it's always a good point for you to review your endorsements with your agents as well as limitations to make sure in your realm of anything that you do, that's not going to be an issue.
One thing to note about the subcontractor limitation is I know a lot of contractors pay their employees via 1099. And a lot of general liability policies say that 1099 employees are independent contractors. And in these subcontractor limitations, an independent contractor should have their own insurance. That's not typically going to happen with a 1099 employee. There are forms that can be added back to some policies to then dictate that those 1099s are treated as a true employee. If they're not, you can have a very high deductible. There are some forms that have anywhere from a $25,000 to a $75,000 deductible if one of these subcontractors or independent contractors slash 1099 employees cause damage from negligence, and then coverage could actually be declined if your 1099 employees or subcontractors don't follow the rules and limitations of this endorsement.
Absolutely. That means their coverages are in question as well. I mean, it's a whole slew of things. So super important to look out for. Essentially, one of the biggest things that I want to talk about is class limitation. Having an insurance agent in telecom it's probably one of the most important things, just simply because of class limitations. So a lot of times on, say, your GL policy, you'll have what they consider a composite rate, which just means, hey, everything in this realm will be covered at the highest rated thing that you're doing. Other times, other carriers do not do it that way. Uh, you're going to have to take a look and see what the carrier, and specifically your agent, is putting as your class code. Just because it has telecom in it does not mean that it's covering line and antenna work. It doesn't mean that it's covering trenching and boring and a whole slew of things that you can do out of the site, civil, anything. Just because it has telecom in that name doesn't mean that you're covered. So digging down, letting your agent know what you're doing. You can call them and say, hey, this is an idea I'm having. Am I covered? And I know that's hard to remember when jobs are flying in and out through the day, but keeping up to date with your agent on what you're doing as your scope of operations is imperative. You don't want to begin a job only for something awful to happen and then essentially tell you, hey, we have you under this code, which doesn't contemplate what you were doing. So unfortunately, there's no coverage. You have now been paying for however long for a really nice piece of paper. So class limitations are a huge thing. You can have several. They're going to be different ones for GL than they are workers' comp. I mean, it's a whole thing. So make sure you're talking to your agent about what your operations are classified as, and then make sure to check the limitations and the exclusions to make sure that none of that work that you're attempting to do or planning to do is listed there. Absolutely.
And then the underground utility location conditions, this won't apply to everybody, but on these general liability policies, we're seeing this being part of the policy where if you're going to be doing excavation, digging, anything underground, you have to call prior to work to have utilities marked. I know, everybody does this. It's very important. But one thing to really look out for is in this endorsement, it may dictate that you have to start and complete the job within 7 days of this locate being done. And that's regardless of what the state or local regulations are. So that's a very important thing for you to know as well. And then moving on, we'll talk about exclusions. So one that a lot of people really don't think about is the residential exclusion. This is really going to be more for the fiber guys. But one thing to really think about as well is some policies will say we contemplate residential as even just a piece of vacant land that is going to be a residential project. So say, there's this vacant piece of land, you've been asked to put a tower on it, but that's deemed as a residential development, even though it hasn't started, that is still considered residential. So that's something for you to really know what that looks like. Next is employment related practices. This is a big one. Our business partner was on the construction side of Telecom for over 15 years. He's a Marine. Maggie's husband was in the oil field. We know how you guys talk to each other. We know how y'all joke around and videos and this and that. One thing to really, think about is having an employment related practices policy. So that's going to help you in the hiring, firing, and workplace conduct. It can also cover a claim that a family member makes where someone was maybe terminated and they're having psychological issues because of this, or it's really hurt the family dynamic, loss of income, that sort of thing. It's not a crazy expensive policy, but it's really important to have just because we get it. We know how the workplace typically is, with contractors. I mean, it just is what it is.
Well, and I've been at several agencies, you know what I mean? Like some are great, and some are the ones that you walk in and you go, this is a court case waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Not every place is like that. And it's not just in telecom or contracting, it's literally. But I think the more that people know and understand the workplace rules and regulations, that everybody's got an opinion, right? So it's hard to keep everybody unoffended all the time. But looking at that coverage really would help you out for sure.
The next is professional liability. This is one that can get very muddy, so we're just going to talk really high level over this. If you're on a site and changes have to be made and you're just carrying out those changes, typically that's going to be covered on your general liability. If you are giving professional advice on how to make that change or the changes that should be made, that is normally going to fall under professional liability, and that's not on a standard general liability policy. I know this happens as well. It's something to really think about. It's, the trigger is normally offering professional advice. So that's something for you guys to really think about.
Not a scare tactic, but I mean, it's something that if you're going to give, I wouldn't think advice or I would do it this way would be something that somebody could completely get you on, but it is. It absolutely is. So.
And everything's just become so litigious.
It
We do see the worst of the worst a lot of times. Like Maggie said, this isn't a scare tactic. It's just information to arm you guys with to make sure that y'all are properly protecting your business for generations to come.
All righty. So let's talk about state exclusions. It never fails. We're going to have some guys that do work in Texas or Florida or
New York, the five boroughs.
The minute they tell me, hey, I've got work in New York, my first question is going to be in the 5 boroughs. Because if it is, it is almost impossible to get coverage in the 5 boroughs.
And if you do, it's very expensive.
It's extremely expensive. So coverage for New York is there. We just need to know specifically where. And you never want to have a claim in those types of states, like a New York state. And then your carrier go, wait a minute, how long have they been in New York? How long did you know? Like, why weren't we notified? It's a really, really big deal on the carrier end and on your agent's end to let you know, hey, when you jump from one state to a new state that we didn't know about, ideally, you need to let your agent know immediately. And then, you need to let your carrier possible, but you normally, rule of thumb, typically you've got about 30 days before, that window of time, you gotta notify them. New York, Florida work, anything like that, you know what I mean? We just need to know states up front as they develop. And it can be as easy as shooting a text, hey, can we get this added? We don't have any payroll here yet. Can we just get it listed on and, with a $0 payroll? And you can. So just be mindful of crossing state lines. Just because the work is there doesn't mean that your insurance coverage is there, which is a big deal.
And then making sure you have these other states listed on your workers' comp.
Absolutely.
If you're a Texas company and you do work in Florida and you don't have it listed, someone's injured, that employee can actually choose the benefits between Florida and Texas. And some states give more claims money. I mean, they pay out claims higher depending on that state, and then that drives your claim up. So just making sure that you have those states listed, so then it's not a question of what benefits will be chosen to pay the claim. Lastly, on the exclusions that we're kind of starting to see and that can really hurt you are unlicensed driver exclusions. We know, we completely understand what's going on with drivers. Finding one that's old enough, that has a clean MVR, and that's licensed. I mean, this is a big problem that our industry is facing. And we're really starting to see this exclusion on umbrella policies. So, what could happen? You have a big catastrophic loss. There's a death. You max out your auto policy, and then they try to open a claim on your umbrella policy, and you have an unlicensed driver exclusion. That umbrella policy is not going to respond. Now your company will be responsible for anything over and above what the auto policy would pay. So a really good thing to do on this is just to run MVRs randomly to verify driver's license statuses. Make sure your guys know, like, hey, only this person should be driving the truck. I know it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. But just really making them and helping them understand how important this is, that the drivers who are on the policy are the drivers to be driving the vehicles. So next, we're going to go into MSAs, Master Service Agreements. This is something that is really important for us because we see it all the time. You need work, you want the work, you sign the MSA, and you have no idea what it says in it. Make sure your legal team reviews it. Ask your insurance agent to review the insurance portion. It's very, very important that you guys know what you're signing because it's setting the foundation for the working relationship with your client. And it helps you know your level of responsibility and how to protect yourself from the things dictated in that agreement. Another thing to really think about is different states have different rules and regulations and laws on what can be dictated when it comes to negligence or sole negligence within a contract. And that's why it's really important to have your lawyer review it, because you could be getting an MSA from a company that really is asking you to do something that's not legal. So it's important to have your lawyer review that and make sure that when you're signing a contract that is above board, that is within the law and what that client can require you to cover.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, our carriers are reviewing, not all, but more often than not, our carriers want to review the MSA. They want an executed one. They want to see what kind of guidelines you're setting up and are you actually following them. Having a review of all of that is imperative. Makes you look really, really good, really favorable to an insurance carrier. Got all that on lock.
This is another really important thing to talk about. It's transferring risk to your subcontractors. So just like you guys sign MSAs, having that subcontractor agreement that then takes that risk and puts it back on your subcontractor. So, knowing what type of indemnification clauses you're going to have and what you can have legally. And by indemnification, it's the way to think of it, it's like a promise to take responsibility if something happens. So it's a promise that your subcontractor is going to take responsibility if they're negligent. So is it that they take on all the liability? They take on only the liability that's theirs? Or do they take on all liability except for anything that you could be solely negligent on? So just really understanding what those three types are and what you want to require for your subcontractors. Hold harmless agreements, protecting you from liability created by your subcontractor's negligence, and then a waiver of subrogation. We hear this all the time. This prevents your sub's insurance company from seeking reimbursement from you if they are negligent. So that keeps them from coming back and suing you. And then include in there your dispute resolution, what that looks like. If we get to this point, we do A, B, and C, or what that kind of looks like between you and your sub.
You'll also want to, let you know that more often than not, a lot of guys are surprised when you see subcontractor agreements. Some clients will say, hey, I actually don't make my guys cover a certain amount or coverage. It's not necessarily all I have to buy because of my professional and my pollution and everything I have to have for contractual reasons. Please know, I have seen MSAs with vendors that say, hey, if you're going to have subs, they are required to cover and have the same limits that you do. You don't want to get in a situation when one of your subs doesn't have adequate coverage or the needed endorsements they need to protect you. And now you've got AT&T, Verizon, somebody now coming at you going, how come you didn't handle these COIs to ensure that you were properly protected? Now we're going to allow this to affect you. It's just nowhere anybody wants to be. So just make sure that you review those. And if they're supposed to have the same coverages, we always suggest let them know, here's your COI match coverages.
And then just make sure you're betting on, are they financially stable? What does their past performance look like? Get their COIs, verify their COIs, do their written scope of work, all of those things. We'll move next. So this is just kind of strategies to help reduce premiums and minimize claims costs. We know the insurance market's hard right now. Everything's more expensive. So people always want to know, how can I reduce my premium? While an insurance agency isn't going to say, if you do this, we're going to give you this percentage off. There's a couple out there that are starting to do it, but we've not seen it across the board. Where it does help is where your agent can go to that carrier and say, this is this company, these are the things they do to minimize claims. And then the underwriter will take that into account whenever assigning your overall rate. I don't want to go through every one of these. This is a really good slide for you to kind of snapshot. I didn't want to get into the weeds on standards and things that we kind of hear every day. So these are a couple different out of the box things that you can kind of think about. So on inland marine, one thing that we really don't see, and it's not that out of the box, is keeping a detailed inventory of your equipment. Checking it in, checking it out. take pictures of it every 6 months to show the condition of the equipment. So if there's a total loss, you can show, no, it was in really great shape. This is what I think I should be getting for this piece of equipment. Putting higher value equipment into a different area, maybe in the shop where only certain people have access to that equipment. And then again, doing the check-in, check-out. One really important thing to consider, some GCs or project owners require it, some don't, is an installation floater. So what these policies are designed to do is cover the material that will become a permanent part of a site during storage, transit, and on the job site. Not all of these policies cover rigging. So as soon as that piece of equipment or that material leaves the ground and it's rigged, some of these policies actually drop coverage. So just ensure that if you do have an installation floater, it does have rigging in it. The auto. This is, where really people are really hurting with premium. It has gotten unbelievable. So a couple things that you can do, dash cams. Everyone should have dash cams. They've gotten to where they're more cost effective. You just really got to have them. There's some carriers that won't even quote if you don't have dash cams. So you really need these to record accidents and protect yourself against fraudulent claims. I had a client years ago. They're a very big company in Dallas, and they were having one or two claims filed on them a week. And then they finally got dash cams, and because people were seeing this huge company's name on the side of the truck, they would just call and file a claim. And because the client didn't have anything to back it up or to be like, no, we didn't do that, their carrier was just paying, 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 paying. And as soon as they put dash cams in, the claims almost went non-existent because now they could say that never happened. Let me pull the footage from that vehicle. So having at least forward-facing dash cams. I know a lot of companies don't want to do it in the cab. I get it, but at least forward-facing dash cams. Pre and post inspections, check the tires, check the brakes. Even if you're not DOT, it's still really important to do these things. And then one really good idea that I thought was color coding your trailer hitches in the trucks to comply with those gross vehicle weight regulations. So that way they know a purple goes with a purple, a yellow with a yellow, and they don't try to put a blue with a green. So having everything kind of color coded.
That'd be great. So one of the things on the auto that I want to touch on, just because a lot of customers ask, they say, hey, I'm looking at this system for the car. It's going to track where they're at. It's going to track everything. It's got cameras. How much of a discount am I going to get? So I'd love to explain that probably not one at all, but it's different than, hey, this is the equation. You're going to get this much money back. What happens when an agent, when you say, hey, I've got cameras, I've got this whole list. When we send something to a carrier, to all of our carriers, we give them the story, this picture of how amazing your company is. And if I can show them, these are the safety programs. It's checked, every 6 months. Here's the vehicle equipment, forward facing, all of it. We've got them all covered. The likelihood that they're going to want to dig into your account to see if it's insurable, that's the one that they've been waiting on, is way higher than somebody that I just send forms for and we say, hey, give us a rate. If you can be great on paper, it really does affect your rates. Underwriters consider the overall package, not just, hey, you haven't had great, no claims, great, go. It's really about the whole package more now than ever. So investing in that kind of equipment is. All right, property. Property is a fun one because nobody thinks about, just think about, hey, this is my commercial policy. If anything happens, I'm covered. Same thing goes here. Commercial, even in your home, your auto, the whole 9 yards, even on your own. You need to take pictures of your house at least once a year. It's suggested twice a year, but just go in a room, quickly take some snapshots. It gets you what office equipment was there. When a fire happens, anything like that happens, the first thing that you're not going to remember is, oh yeah, remember in my office I had this on the back wall, or it all adds up and it will massively help in claims if you can say, hey, here's pictures from the last 6 months or from last year. this is what the office looked like, here are all the items. It's easier to price out for you and the adjuster, which is ideal. Workers' compensation, that's a hard one. I always tell people, hey, when you look at workers' comp in your risk mitigation, make sure that if somebody does have an accident, we want to report it on time. We want to make sure that we have all the documentation. Do they have an accident log? Did they complete it? Did they give it back to you? Did they take pictures? Did they take information? The whole 9 yards, how long did it take them to report it until they were going to the doctor, that kind of thing. Just having really good documentation is ideal for workers' comp.
One thing to know on workers' comp is some states will actually fine you if you don't report that loss within a certain amount of time. So a lot of times what can happen is someone gets a very minor injury, like a cut or what have you. They don't report it to the workers' comp carrier. That ends up getting it infected. And so now we're a couple months down the road and now it's like, oh crap, we better report that. Well, the workers' comp carrier is like, you should have reported that within 3 days and you didn't. And so you can actually get a fine for that. Workers' comp is one of those coverages that is very heavily governed. We don't have a lot of latitude or room to move within workers' comp. It is the coverage that is truly for the employees. So just making sure that, all claims are reported. I really like the idea of talking about near misses, near claim situations to figure out how you can avoid that in the future. And then on general liability, I learned this from my good friend Ken over at Crown Castle. It was something I never really thought about, but when you're doing when you're doing the digs and the excavation, take the video, take a pre and post video, not pictures, a video. Do it from the same vantage point, both pre and post, and put something in the video that gives you an idea of measurement, a hard hat, a bucket, what have you, so that you can look at that video and tell this, it was about this far away, or this was the measurement that it was, to have something in there showing kind of spatial distance.
Claims are always fun, and I say that as absolutely sarcastically as possible. Claims are fun for no one. I have never met anybody and thought, dang, that was a really good, calm, easy claim. That was nice. So preparation for a claim. I'd like to talk to you about what realistically happens in most cases, not all, but on the normal side of things. So say we have a claim, an auto claim, and it's been reported. Say you report it to me, and then I've now put the carrier on notice. They now have anywhere between 48 to 72 hours to contact the person that is on the claim, usually a manager, an owner. And they'll need to discuss what happened in the accident, plus probably talk to the other driver. From that point, they will make an appointment to come take a look at everything, value it, and kind of go from there. One of the biggest things that I see, and I recently had experience with one of them, and let me start out by saying, I appreciate when somebody tries to retain a risk. That's always great. But let's be honest, sometimes you can't. So if something happens in a building next door and it's caused damage to your building, and the guy's like, hey, I'm gonna pay you out of pocket, don't worry about it. I'm gonna tell you what I told our client. I have dealt with 3 or 4 of those, and to date, not one claim that somebody has said, hey, he's gonna do the right thing. They're gonna come in and they're gonna retain it. No. It doesn't happen. You want to know why? Because as a business owner, if I hit somebody or I cause damage and they come back to me and they give me a bill for repair, and I'm like, that is astronomical. I have a shop right down here that'll do it for half this price. You actually don't get to pick what body shop they go to. They get picked. So it becomes hurt feelings, a lot more chaos than necessary, and essentially you can just hand it over to your agent and be like, hey, let's handle this, because if it comes to court and you try to retain it, they're not going to give you legal help anymore. So just know that more often than not, you get to pick whether or how long you try to retain the quote, but know that if we start a quote or we stop it and we pull back because we want them to do it, the whole claims process is gross. It's time consuming. It never works as fast as you want it to. So the minute a claim happens, it really is all about jumping on it, getting it handled that time to make your time easier on the back end, and you're not going, where are we with this? So
And where we really see this a lot is auto claims.
absolutely.
It'll be a fender bender, and our client will be like, "Oh, it should only be $3,000. We're just going to pay it out of pocket." Well, next thing you know, this person has an accident attorney, their car's totaled, and they want $50,000. So, we know that you guys don't want to report claims because we know it drives the premium. Again, that's where your dash cams really help. Did they slam on their brakes? Did they pull out in front of you? What was the weather that day? Were you even able to stop? Is it a 50-50 situation? But without the dash cam footage, we just don't know. Another thing to really think about is your safety program. Um, we see it a lot with new companies. They control H somebody else's safety program and plop their name right in it, and they have no clue what it says. If you have a catastrophic claim and you have to get in front of a jury, can you tell them, this is my safety program, this is what's in it, and we follow it? And that's really how you have to think. Like I said, everything's gotten very litigious. And sometimes they do go to a legal situation where you have to go to court. And not following a safety program, really, sometimes it's better not to have one at all if you're not going to follow it or know what's in it. Whereas, but we do know in this industry, you've got to have it. So at least know what's in it. Two of the biggest questions asked, especially after a catastrophic claim like a death or a major injury, is when was the last time you had a safety meeting? And did everyone sign off that they understood and that they attended the meeting? Understood is very important because there are a lot of people that work for our companies that don't speak English. So if you're having a safety meeting in English, is a Spanish speaking employee understanding? Did you make an effort to give them translated materials so that they could understand? So that's two big things to really think about.
And if you don't, that also ties into an EPLI because you did not give your employees sufficient information so they could fully understand uh, their scope of work and everything.
And their safety requirements.
Right.
So real quick, we'll wrap it up here. One big thing I want to talk about after a claim, after an incident, is media protocol. What can they say on social media? What can't they say on social media? Making sure that they know these things. When there's, a major incident, we know that it's reported, it's all over Facebook. So just really talking about what that looks like, what they can and can't say. One other really important piece that I want to go over real fast is when there's a vehicle incident, start your video camera. That way you get fellow employees' reactions, their injury status, and you also get the claimants. Like I said, a lot of times a claimant will say they're fine, and the next thing you know, you're slapped with a lawsuit from an accident attorney. So just making sure that you have real-time information and real-time data for when a claim happens.
Any witness, anybody else stopped in a car, get a name, get a telephone number, because you don't want to get into one of those he said, she said situations with your carrier. If the police are not called, you can at least have the information for one other vehicle or person that was passing by and saw the accident.
And then just common mistakes that delay claims, not reporting it promptly, incomplete or missing documentation, never admit fault, allow the adjuster to assign fault, and then not maintaining those vehicle and equipment inventories. And then lastly, I think the most important thing is, a lot of people see their insurance agents as a used car salesman. We get it all the time. We tell people we own an agency, they no longer want to talk to us. I mean, we get it. It's boring and we can nerd out about it. But just make sure that you have an insurance agent who is as invested in your business as you are, and that you can talk to openly, honestly, and that they will keep your confidentiality. We are a service. Just as you would look for a lawyer, we are a professional service. It's important that everything be kept confidential, that you can talk to them about things that you're planning, things that you're thinking about doing. Hey, we had an almost claim. Have you seen this in the past? What are some things that maybe your other clients have done to mitigate, a claim like this? So just making sure that, you do have someone that you can talk to, you do have someone you can trust. Because like I said, we are as invested, and it is as important to us that your business have long-term success and be profitable.
we always, insurance agents in general always tend to get a negative, very negative feel. Understand that that's our job. I am preparing myself to cover you in your worst situation when everything is already on fire. So it's always hard as a sales agent to not give you scare tactics, but I will, anytime that you're thinking about something, the greatest benefit is that we probably know 12 ways that it can go bad. So we just need to make sure that you're protected for all of those 12. And if you're not, I need to notify you, hey, this may be an issue. And you get to decide and tell us what to do. It is very much a working business relationship with your agent. If it's not, that's an issue. That's a financial issue that you can't take on because that's your baby. You know what I mean? That company is your baby, and you want to make sure that it's
Really protected.
completely protected and you're not losing out financially because of, some random mistake you could have mixed
So
out.
we hope we gave you some good tips and tricks. We hope we didn't put you to sleep
Yeah.
for your afternoon
I
nap.
hope you're not drunk,
We will be at the TXWA golf tournament in a couple weeks. So if there's anything that you think about, that you want to talk about, or questions that you think of, we'll be there. You can reach out to us anytime. We're happy to help. It's not all about, well, let me write this policy for you or give me your insurance. We want to be a resource for you and help you with these things that kind of come up. So with that, we were supposed to keep it to 30 minutes. We kind of went long-winded. Again, we nerded out. So Ben, we'll turn it back over to you and go over any questions that anyone may have.
No worries. Thank you very much to Casey and Maggie for that. I don't think we've got any questions. John, pop up if you hear otherwise. You just said no questions, so we're good. As the lady said, they're going to be at the Texas Wireless event in a couple weeks. So if you do have any, feel free to seek them down or track them down at the event. You can reach out to anyone on the Texas Wireless Association committee, and we can put you in touch with them if you have questions. Otherwise, in the next couple days, I'll have the recap of this video up on the webinar page of the Texas Wireless website, and I'll try to remember to put the email addresses of Casey and Maggie up there as well, so you can reach out with any questions you may have. Thank you once again. Insurance is one of those things that you hope you never have to deal with, but if you put your head in the sand, it's not going to be one of the things that it's not going to treat you well. So thank you. Thank you for jumping in and sharing that information with everyone. If there's anyone that's still on the call that is interested in volunteering for one of these webinars moving forward, and you can offer a subject that either hasn't been covered yet or needs to be covered in a different way, please reach out to anyone on the committee between now and whenever, and then or come find us at the spring event. And outside of that, thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing everyone in a couple weeks in Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.